On that note, what we'll start with, I guess, what every week is going to look like. So you'll have noticed that we've numbered every week. So this is week 1, and weeks start every Friday. Okay. So every Friday, so Friday to Friday, every Friday in the morning, you get access to new, like a new week starts. So you'll get access to your new masterclass, right? So last week was the exception that you guys had access on the Saturday. But day after tomorrow, this coming Friday, you'll be granted access to week 2's masterclass, which is human-centered design, and so on and so forth. So every Friday morning, you'll receive an email in the same way you did this past Saturday, that effectively says, you know, the masterclass content is available now. And so the logic there is that you know, you guys have the weekend to kind of look over it if you want to, if that suits you. And then in addition to that, you know, you have a couple of days as well to go over the masterclass content before coming to the weekly community session here on Zoom every Wednesday. So theoretically you have, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday night. So 5 days, 5 nights to go over the masterclass content. Then every Wednesday night, we'll have our workshop here on Zoom to discuss the content from last week, from last Friday. So today, after all of our welcomes and our, you know, and our housekeeping stuff, we'll be discussing last week's content, which is the entrepreneurial mindset. So is that clear to everyone, just kind of how the weeks work? Does anyone have a question? Yeah. I see some thumbs up there.
If you have a question, please unmute yourself or type it in the comments.
Yeah. Happy. I think there was also a raise a hand. Maybe not. Okay. Yeah. So just happy for you guys to just type it in the chat. I'm just watching the chat as well. And or just unmute yourselves real quick and jump in. Okay, so basically every new week starts on Friday morning. Okay, so Friday to Friday, every Wednesday we discuss the content that was given to us the Friday prior. Okay, so that is, I guess, masterclass content and then our workshops. Then in addition to that, we have Slack. So you would have noticed as well, oh, sorry, getting a bit ahead of myself. Also, every week you'll notice in Teachable, you'll notice that at the end of the week, there's a module on Teachable that says, you know, community session prep. So we oftentimes there will be exercises relating to the master classes that were done. So for example, this week we talked about the Lean Model Canvas, and then the community session workshop prep was to fill out your own Lean Model Canvas, right? So basically you know, that is workshop prep to be done before this workshop here on Zoom every Wednesday night. And it's for you to, you know, to then subsequently discuss with the rest of your cohort, your team, your co-founders. It doesn't, when it comes to doing this kind of homework, if you will, it doesn't need to be 100% correct. This isn't, you know, like times tables, right, where there is really only one answer. You know, if you're having any issues with it, or there's parts of it that you don't understand, first of all, I would heavily encourage you to jump on Slack and discuss it with the rest of your cohort. Maybe you could go into, you know, into general, or even on your, on our private cohort page, which is C20 Sydney Pre-Accelerator, and just jump in, just discuss it. Basically ask, hey, does anyone else have an issue with the Lean Model Canvas? Or, you know, start a conversation. We highly encourage you to make use of the community. If you find yourself in a particular position, the likelihood is that another person, another founder in your cohort is in the same position or asking themselves the same question. So by all means, do ask questions when you have them, and don't be afraid to ask for help or for advice or feedback. And again, so when it comes down to showing up to these sessions, if you are, you know, in a situation where you're not really sure kind of if what you've done is on the money, then, you know, don't worry about it. You know, the purpose of these workshops is for all of us to discuss, reflect, and really understand what the masterclass was that week, basically. So this is a time for all of us to kind of understand what we've read and what we've, you know, what we've watched in terms of the master classes. Is that clear? Is that okay for everyone? Does anyone have any questions up until now? No? Good. We're looking good here. Cool. Okay, so, all right, then we also have Slack. So Slack, you'll notice that there are a bunch of different channels there. And I believe I put in some explanations as well, but basically highly encourage you to look through them. Of course, right now you'll notice that there isn't a lot populated in a lot of these channels. However, once posting does kind of get up and running, you'll often find that it's hard to catch up sometimes. It's hard to keep up with some of the things that are being posted there, but highly recommend, for example, in channels like Learnings, where oftentimes we share articles to, you know, different blog posts, for example, that are really interesting and stuff like that. Oftentimes, lots of people will share very similar articles and it's hard to catch up. But basically, what I'm saying is that there are a bunch of channels in Slack and they all individually have very specific purposes. So I would highly recommend that you look through them and take what you need from them and also actively contribute to them. All right, so Slack. Okay, so further to that, in the coming weeks, we'll start adding more people from our community into Slack. So we'll be adding some of our mentors, some of our partners. We'll be adding alumni as well. And virtually, our Slack room is going to, currently it's only you guys. It's going to become a lot busier in there, basically. So that's kind of what I want to reiterate about the channels is that that the channels are used for the purposes that they're kind of designated for. We'll be doing, we'll be kind of releasing, I guess, new channels. For example, we have like an Ask Me channel coming along as well. And, you know, and when that day comes, basically, you know, we'll make sure to notify all of you and let you know how everything works on those. But definitely, I would say, absolutely make the most of Slack. It is effectively where your community lives. It's where your cohort lives. It's where we live. So we are always on Slack. Every day we use it ourselves for our own kind of internal Catalyzer comms. And in addition to that, we're also going to be inviting our larger community into this Slack room as well. So it's definitely a place where you want to be like you want to be active on Slack. We also post all of our important announcements on Slack. So if you haven't already, I would highly recommend that you download it onto your mobile phone as well. Amend the notifications though to only get notifications for like DMs and tags. Otherwise, your guys are going to get very frustrated with it very quickly. You'll get notifications for every single post that's made, and in a huge community that can become very overwhelming. So yeah, so I think, okay, so we've discussed content, we've discussed our systems. I would say as well, I guess, as a part of our community. So in a minute, Usman will go over, you know, our culture code and how we are going to agree to work together. But just in terms, for the purposes of our overview here in our program, you'll notice here that there's a section in the program overview called Catalyzer Socials, Logos, and Assets. So there we've got all of our socials there. Highly recommend that you become a part of our community online as well. So further down the line, we do have, you know, once you guys are done with the program, we do have a online Facebook alumni group on Facebook, which we will invite you to as well. Further to that, I'd say probably most importantly on platforms like LinkedIn, Medium, and Twitter. That's where we are, we're very active. We're constantly reposting opportunities and different events and goings on from our partners. So for example, an example post would be that we just recently shared our partner accelerator called StartMate. They're doing office hours, and so we shared, access to their office hours. They have access to some of the best mentors across Australia and New Zealand, and they reach out to us specifically because they know that we work with founders such as yourselves to offer those office hours to our community. So we repost often, quite a few really great opportunities to access, networks of investors, of mentors, and different resources. So I highly recommend that if you haven't already, that you follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Medium. And then in addition to that, we also, for example, if your business already has official pages on social media. So if your business already has pages on LinkedIn, pages on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, like social media accounts, then please do follow us from your business pages as well, so that we can reshare your announcements and your posts with our community. And then in addition to that, so that we know how best to tag you if and when we share any kind of announcement or post relating to you or your business. And then further below that, we've added some guidelines on how to add your participation in the Catalyzer Pre-Accelerator program on LinkedIn. If you'd like to do that, highly encourage that you do. And so you can just follow those guidelines there. We've also put down some guidelines on the use of our logo on your website if you wish to use it, or on or any kind of reference to Catalyzer basically online. So I'd ask you that if you're planning on doing any of that, then please do have a read through those guidelines very quickly. Another thing is, and then again, this will kind of be touched on slightly in our next little segment, which is about our culture code, but this is about like privacy and conduct. So privacy is effectively, if a piece of information is not yours, then you do not share it unless you have express consent from the person that information belongs to. That is effectively it, right? It is, unless you have express consent or permission by an individual that is the owner of a specific piece of information, then it is not up to you to share it. That is, that's the law. And so at Catalyzer, we take privacy really seriously. We want to maintain your privacy. We want to maintain the privacy of our mentors, of our partners, of ourselves, our own opinions. And so that's just something that we all need to consider going into this journey, because oftentimes you will be having conversations, sometimes sensitive conversations about a person's journey, a person's entrepreneurial journey, or the issues that they might have going on in their life. And we should all respect that when and if that kind of disclosure does happen. And then back to conduct. So again, Usman will go over this really quickly, but basically we expect that everyone in our community, our partners, our mentors, cohort, staff, anyone, complies with our code of conduct. And moreover, under no circumstance does Catalyzer tolerate any instance of discrimination for whatever reason, whether it be on sex, gender, religious belief, veteran status, whatever reason whatsoever someone could discriminate another person for. It will not be tolerated at Catalyzer at all. We have a zero tolerance policy. So I just want to make that very clear to everyone here today. Zero tolerance means zero tolerance. It happens once. It is the last time it will happen. Okay. So moving on. Resources. Okay, so in the program overview, you'll notice right below that we've got our resources, which you can also access this quite quickly in the table of contents. It's all linked. In resources, we'll be constantly adding, more stuff to that as time goes on. So I'd highly recommend, you kind of keep an eye on it. Also, this document in general, the program overview in general, is a live document. All right, we will be making changes to things as time goes on. In the event that we make like a major change or we add like a really great resource to this list, of course, we'll alert you to that change. You don't need to constantly be skimming it every day to see if something new has been added. And so, yeah, so I highly recommend that you have a look through those, or you can have a discussion with, with one of us as to where, which one of these places would be the best place for you to find a particular, a bit of information or a particular resource. Happy to help you there. And then same thing with below that, we've got our FAQ. And again, I think I mentioned this as well in the Ask Catalyzer channel. So we've got, so two things basically. One, so number one, first of all, you're always welcome to reach out to me, to Uzman. Probably best to reach out to me depending on, I guess, the content of your question. But like for program related questions, number one, always look at the program overview first. Always. Like that should be your go-to, what date is this happening? I'll have a quick look at the program overview. In the event that you do not find the information you're looking for in the program overview, highly recommend that you jump into the Ask Catalyzer channel and just ask the question and tag me. So you can just say, at Marlowe, how do we submit our pitch videos? Okay, great. And then that I'll be notified and I can jump on and, and then notify everyone of the outcome of that question. Then in addition to that, I can also update it here. So I've got 3 minutes left in my little program overview segment here. So I'll take any questions. Are there any questions about the program overview, any housekeeping, any admin, anything I said? No? Are we all good?
Just a quick question, Marlowe.
Oh, yep. Hi, Arif.
Usman, hi. As Usman mentioned, and there are a few people among us who are fasting. So would it be possible in the first few minutes, because I'm from Sydney, and every Wednesday when the session starts, it's between 10-12 minutes after the session, we have to break the fast and then go for prayers. So is there any way that I can take a 5 or 10 minutes break in between and then quickly pray and come back? Would that work?
I mean,
I can jump in.
I think, yeah, Usman, yeah.
I can jump in and say, yeah, it's totally fine. This is not a university or, like a classroom like that. We're all adults. So, if you want to, and this is generally for everyone, if you want to take a break, like for example, if you want to go to the bathroom, if you want to, get a drink or anything like that, just do it. There's no need to ask permission, right? Obviously, we expect you to just be adults. If you want to take a break for prayer, it's totally fine as well. Just make sure that, you're not gone for like half an hour or something, because then you're going to miss a lot of the, useful content.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Are we all good? Cool. I think we're good, Usman. I think we can move ahead.
Marlowe, I have one question. Can I ask?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
In resources, you mentioned we can use Amazon credit.
Yeah.
How much we can get and when we can apply?
I can't remember exactly. I think it's a couple $1,000s of free Amazon credits, right, Usman?
I think it was 10,000.
Yeah.
Free AWS credits, and you can get them right now. You just basically click on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically, what happened? I applied for one accelerator program. Our application was unsuccessful, but still they gave us the credit. I applied for that application. It's already 2 weeks. Didn't get approved yet. Can I still apply your one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you can. And normally what happens is, so if you apply for Amazon credits, what happens is they reach out to us and they normally ask, this team has applied, so can you confirm if they're part of your program? And so then we have to approve. So maybe I already applied for, haven't approved that application for whatever reason, or they didn't have the time, or they didn't check it. So yeah, so definitely you can apply with us as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Just a quick question. What exactly means by the Amazon credit?
So Amazon, so it's Amazon Web Services. It's not Amazon like the online marketplace. So effectively, if you are hosting servers, if your business is going to be hosting servers, then you can get a credit with AWS to host those servers. You know, so you would pay AWS like you know, fees depending on how many servers you need, and that obviously that comes at a cost, right? Hosting costs money. And so as part of, I guess, as a partnership with us, with so it's AWS for startups, they offer incubators like us, basically, you know, kind of like a new customer offer, if you will, for new founders. So basically, it's really only relevant or useful to you if you are founding a tech business that requires hosting.
And when Marlowe talks about hosting, for those of you who don't know, it's basically hosting on the cloud, and Amazon is sort of cloud specifically.
Okay, so I think Usman, I think we're okay to go ahead. If we don't have any, do we have any more questions? Oh, I think actually, sorry, I think I just muted. Oh, Misakan, do you have a question?
Yes.
There you are. Hi.
Hi. Good evening, everybody. Just on the Amazon credit, I wanted to understand: is it just for the hosting, or could you use for any other thing? Services rendered by AWS.
It's general credits for a lot of different things, but like I mean the easiest explanation is hosting. That's why I'm talking about that. But anything that you can use the AWS credits for, generally you can use these ones.
All right, thank you very much.
And we also have someone who's an expert in AWS and as a part of their AWS startups team. So if this is a concern for a bunch of you, we can also try and bring them as well and do like a session separate to this, and they can sort of explain all the details and might even do some mentoring on this stuff as well.
Thank you very much.
No worries. Okay. Any more questions? Last call for questions on program overview stuff.
I've got a question.
Okay. Hey, Rico.
Hi, how are you doing, guys?
Good.
My question is, for example, as the program is designed for startups, you know, like from the ground up. My question is, if you have a business, you already, you know, kind of like not from the bottom, you know what I mean? Like already trying to marketing or scale your business. Is there a way to jump ahead a little bit on the program and then get a session, for example, with someone, I would say, related to marketing, or you gotta go through the flow of the course, through the whole process, or if you can, because sometimes you're gonna focus right now, let's say, as we saw in the module 1, which was great, guys, good info. I don't know if it was you who designed and then put the pieces together, but it was great. I really enjoyed it. So yeah, so then instead of going step by step from 1 to 3, like for example, if I'm on module 3 or 4 already, is there a way to get into contact with someone who can help me with that?
So, okay, so I think you've got like 2 questions here, right? So number 1, in terms of jumping ahead.
Yep.
So currently we don't want anyone jumping ahead because we want you to take the time to we only want to get you to focus on one thing basically per week. The thing is, you know, all of you have a lot going on as it is, right? You've all got lives. Some of you probably have full-time jobs. You probably got kids, or you might have kids, might not, doesn't matter. The point is, you guys all have a lot of other things going on, right? So we don't want to put you in a position as well where you become, you know, or, you know, inadvertently overwhelm yourselves. We don't want to overwhelm you either. And that is deliberately why, like that is specifically why the content, the masterclass content is dripped to you every week, basically. And then your second question about, you know, if you have a really kind of particular area of need, but you already know that even now at the beginning of the program, then by all means, I mean, let's talk about it, right? Like we can
Yep.
talk about this kind of stuff. You know, so reach out to me, or maybe even to Nehal or Osman,
Yep.
and we can talk about, you know, what you think, you know, what your issue is basically, and then whether or not putting you in touch with someone at this stage is appropriate. But in general, so you know, in the next couple of weeks, probably like 3 to 4 weeks as well, we'll start bringing in mentors and other partners
All
into
right.
the fold into these workshops as well. So you will have more than enough, like plenty of opportunities, in fact, to speak to experts in different areas.
Yep. All right. Great.
And yeah.
All right. Let's step by step.
And I'll add to that as well, which is that for when the mentors are coming through, because they've got expertise that is much broader and experience. So what that means is that, you know, depending on like what stage you're at, you can ask those different questions, right? But in the meantime, yeah, if you need any sort of specific help, definitely reach out to us and we can see what we can do.
Okay. Any more questions? I reckon there's a question hiding somewhere in the back of someone's head. It'll pop out just as I say, let's move on to the culture code. No? Okay. All right, let's go. You want to go ahead then, Osman?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.